I'm taking you back to 2015 using Football Manager. The Premier League was just won by Chelsea under Jose Mourinho. Arsene Wenger was still in charge at Arsenal, and Barcelona have just won the treble with Messi, Suarez and Neymar as their front three. And so we're using a retro database created by Mr. Tini to start us off at the 2015-16 season. And that's the season, of course, where Leicester won the Premier League. However, we're going to use this retro database to go all the way and change the history up to present day. So sit back and enjoy the ride as we recreate history of the last 10 years or so in Football Manager. The 2015-16 season got us off to a fantastic start as Jose Mourinho's Chelsea failed to retain the Premier League title. And that's because Arsene Wenger's Arsenal surprised everybody with such a strong start, which helped them pick up a domestic double by the end of the season, as they not only won the Premier League but the FA Cup, defeating Manchester United in extra time. MSN, Messi, Suarez, Neymar continued to dominate in Spain as they won La Liga above Real Madrid by 5 points. And it was not a great year for Real Madrid, who also lost in the Champions League final 2 to Pep Guardiola's Bayern Munich, a final in which they won in real life, of course, against Atletico Madrid. And what makes this worse for Real Madrid is they actually sold Casemiro to Bayern Munich that season for £84 million. There were 3 managers that were sacked in La Liga, none really of note, but in the Premier League there was some casualties, unfortunately, for the likes of Louis van Gaal, who was sacked at Manchester United for a poor league performance. The rest you kind of expect. These 3 teams, I believe, well, there's 4 of them there. There's 3 that got relegated there. So we're looking at the Premier League. 6th place, Manchester United, Stoke, Sunderland and Crystal Palace all went down. West Brom was the other team that sacked their manager and managed to survive, by the looks of it, by the skin of their teeth. But yeah, Arsenal, Premier League title in season 1. And funny enough, they actually had the key signing of the season in the Premier League 2, signing Lucas Moura that they picked up from PSG for £57 million. A player, of course, who in real life went to Tottenham. Now, it seems like the World Golden Ball or the Ballon d'Or isn't exactly working in this. So what we're going to have to go with is the World Footballer of the Year from now on. And that was won this season by Mesut Ozil, also of Arsenal. In other leagues, Juventus were still dominating in Italy. The Bundesliga, despite Bayern Munich winning the Champions League, was won by Borussia Dortmund. And in the French league, it's no surprise that PSG claimed the title with 90 points. However, Monaco do have a few very good players who are about to come through their youth academy. Going up into the Premier League next season, we have Hull, QPR and Cardiff. Being relegated is Rotherham, Preston and MK Dons. In Sky Bet League 1, going into the Championship, we have Peterborough, Barnsley and Colchester. Being relegated is Chesterfield, Bury, Rochdale and Shrewsbury. In Sky Bet League 2, where I'll find Plymouth Argyle, they just narrowly missed out on a playoff win, with Yeovil, Wickham, Luton and Stevenage going up through the playoffs. Relegated was Cambridge and Morecambe into the Vanarama National League. All of these are also retro too, so I know that for a fact. If I go to Plymouth Argyle, Graham Carey should be the best player there, and there he actually is. A player that hasn't played for Argyle for at least 5 or 6 seasons. So when this drops, it'll be the perfect way to sort of relive some fantastic times that maybe your club has experienced, or just go back and enjoy a little bit of nostalgia from 2015-16 onwards, thanks to Mr. Tini. I'll leave a link to his Patreon so that when the early access drops, you can pick it up should you wish and support him as well as a content creator. But I'm sure it will be out soon when everything is tested and everything is set and perfect for you to download for free. The following season seen a lot of big managers sacked, including Jose Mourinho, Manuel Pellegrini at City and Jurgen Klopp of Liverpool in the Premier League, which meant some big names coming in as well. Simeone has taken over at Chelsea at the start of the season, and Antonio Conte at Manchester United. Liverpool and Manchester City are still looking for their new managers, as Klopp and Pellegrini were sacked right at the end of the season due to a bad league performance. Transfer-wise, Tottenham had a great summer, spending around £100 million and bringing in Kevin Gamero for £28 million, who ended up scoring 19 Premier League goals. And that helped Tottenham Hotspur lift their first Premier League title, beating Arsenal to the top spot by just a point. But look away, Arsenal fans, because despite buying Lukaku for £70 million from Everton, Tottenham also beat them 2-1 in the FA Cup final. Their transfers being rather interesting because as well as Lukaku, Lukaku, Emre Can joined for £90 million from Liverpool, and out the door was Olivier Giroud to Barcelona. Speaking of Barcelona, Simeone's last gift to Atletico was the La Liga title before he went to Chelsea, and they only lose one game all season. This wasn't the only twist in Spain, as they also got to the Champions League final against Juventus with the scores at 2-2 in extra time. The winner was scored by Alvaro Morata, a former Real Madrid player for Juve. So we're at a very interesting point in history right now. I've just made myself Everton manager so we can search things a little bit more, but the Premier League's a little bit crazy with Tottenham managing to win this season, Everton going down this season, Arsenal, Manchester United still there, but City, Chelsea and Liverpool doing really bad. And Chelsea's drop-off, considering they were going into this simulation as champions, is crazy. And Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp, I know, weren't quite there yet, but they were starting to knock on the door. The likes of Philip Coutinho's there. They've signed Rolly there, but they've also got Roberto Firmino. So they're a couple of players away from being the Liverpool that we know dominated in the 2020 time, around about that time. So we're at a very interesting point, and both of those clubs are going to be looking, I mean, Simeone's just joined Chelsea, but Liverpool and City are looking for a new manager, so it's going to be interesting to see who they take. But over, of course, into Spain, which has been another rather interesting bit of development with Real Madrid and Barcelona failing to win the La Liga. How will they bounce back? That's quite interesting, because the Spanish Cup was won by Real Madrid, which means that Barcelona failed to win anything this season, which, when you've got the likes of Lionel Messi, you've got the likes of Neymar, and you've got Luis Suarez up front, you should be winning that. It's Luis Enrique, of course, who is the manager, so we all know how capable he is. How will they react? Now, let's take a quick look using the in-game editor option that we have open here to have a look at some of the best players. We've looked at a few of them already. Messi is 200 out of 200 current ability. Cristiano Ronaldo, who's aged 32, is close to it at Real Madrid still. We are actually doing a versus rebuild tomorrow, me and Dad, with Barcelona and Real Madrid, so make sure you subscribe so you do not miss that versus rebuild, an El Clasico. Neymar with 191, but we've got Manuel Neuer, the best goalkeeper in the world at Bayern Munich. Eden Hazard, one of the best attacking midfielders, still at Chelsea. Is he still going to be there with them finishing that low down in the league? David De Gea at Manchester United, Thibaut Courtois, Paul Pogba at Juve is absolutely unbelievable. And for Manchester City, you've got Sergio Aguero back, one of the best strikers to ever grace the Premier League. But some fantastic players that you can go down the list and see that we're in for a very good time within the next 8 or so seasons. And of course, the new gens, the likes of Kylian Mbappe, Jude Bellingham, will all start coming through in real life when they do. Season 3 was the last season for Conte at Manchester United, who, despite winning the Europa League the season before, was sacked at the end of the 2017-18 season. The Premier League Golden Boot went to Leicester City's Jamie Vardy with 31 goals as they enjoy a mid-table finish in the Prem. Pochettino's Spurs are still causing Arsenal problems as a 2-1 win against Manchester City at the Etihad on the final day leapfrogged Arsenal to lift back-to-back league titles. What cost Arsenal on the final day was a draw to Norwich at home, a terrible result considering they had top spot on goal difference and Norwich had nothing to play for in their last game. The Bundesliga had Bayern back on top in Germany, while Allegri's Juventus lose just with one game on course to another Scudetto. Rafa Benitez's Real Madrid finally come to form with a La Liga title in Spain, as well as a massive victory in the Champions League final over AC Milan, going 3-0 up to win 3-2 after 90 minutes. But they had an interesting window as they sold Benzema to PSG and brought in Carlos Tevez for just £6 million, as well as Theo Walcott from Arsenal. However, in time, Luis Enrique's Barcelona could be set to dominate in the future with signings like Fernando, Christopher Ayer, and the biggest and best wonder kid Yuri Tillemans, who at 21 is already world class, and with more game time at Barcelona will only improve. City didn't go without a trophy though, as they bagged the Europa League with a 3-0 win over Steve McLaren's Newcastle. For now though, it's back-to-back World Footballer of the Year wins for Lionel Messi at Barcelona. But the 2018-19 season was about to make things very interesting because Arsene Wenger is retiring at Arsenal. And that's because Luis Enrique left Barcelona to take charge and, despite winning the FA Cup against Emery's Manchester United, was sacked. The manager changes also meant Pep Guardiola moved to Barcelona from Bayern Munich, Allegri moved from Juventus to take his job at Bayern, and Thomas Tuchel left Atletico to go to Juventus. And speaking of Atletico, Simeone, who moved to Chelsea a few seasons back from them, finally got what he was brought in to do, as Chelsea won the league title and Spurs dropped all the way down into 5th place. But that might also be down to Pochettino leaving Spurs at the start of the season to go to AC Milan and being replaced by Ralf Rangnick. With Guardiola back in Barcelona though, that meant danger for the rest of Spain, as they finally reclaimed the La Liga title ahead of Real Madrid, who again reached the Champions League final but were defeated by Thomas Tuchel's Juventus 2-1 thanks to Morata's excellent winner. But it was back-to-back Europa League wins for Jurgen Love's Manchester City. But in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich won on the final day of the season to leapfrog Borussia Dortmund to that title. In the Serie A, Thomas Tuchel also won the Serie A league title as well, which means Juventus keep up their dominance in that league. Quite a lot as well, 9 points there. But let's have a look at the lower leagues in England. In the Sky Bet Championship, we got West Ham, Burnley and West Brom coming up. In Sky Bet League 1, we have got Birmingham, Portsmouth and Nottingham Forest making their way back up the pyramid, with Notts County, Fleetwood, Rochdale and Doncaster going down. Sky Bet League 2, Plymouth Argyle are finally promoted, with Oldham, Yeovil and Oxford. Newport County and Bristol Rovers are finding themselves in the Vanarama National League next season. Wrexham also making their way up without all of the Hollywood money. The 2019-20 season was a big one for Romelu Lukaku, who won the Premier League Golden Boot, scoring 35 goals for Arsenal. And yet somehow Tottenham still managed to beat them to the Premier League title. New manager Marcelinho for Arsenal could also be gone after just one season too, as he's wanted by Bayern Munich. Another notable change in England was Jogi Löw going to PSG, so City brought in Jardine instead. And what an appointment that turned out to be, as Manchester City won the Champions League, defeating Bayer Leverkusen 2-1 in the final. Weirdly, the only transfer either Real Madrid or Barcelona made was Madrid signing Eric Dyer for Spurs for £90 million. And Barcelona and Pep might just regret that this season, as they go completely trophyless while Rafa Benitez, Cristiano Ronaldo and Real Madrid dominate the season. Even the World Footballer of the Year goes from Neymar at Barcelona to James Rodriguez of Real Madrid. The reason Bayern Munich are looking for a new manager and want Marcelinho at Arsenal is because they finished in 3rd place and sacked Allegri. Nothing is stopping Tuchel in Italy though, as it's the league and cup double for Juventus. I think it's about time we have a look at some players again though, because right now, of course, we haven't exactly got a lot of information about the types of players that potentially could be around. So let's make ourselves manager of Bayern Munich, for example. They're looking for a manager right now, and then we can take a look to see who the best players are in the world, and maybe who are the up-and-coming new gens that we might have a look at coming through this season. So Bayern Munich got £174 million to spend, so it'll be interesting to see what they do this summer window. But let's take a look then. In terms of current ability, the best players in the world, I'm predicting it's probably still Messi, but who is up there with him? So I've got every single player loaded, so it's going to be a big one. It's Paul Pogba, who of course has moved to Real Madrid now. So Paul Pogba moved 2 seasons ago to Real Madrid for £64 million. That is a bargain, by the way. So he is there alongside, of course, some very good players like Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, Suarez, Messi. How are they not winning everything? Like, unbelievable. David De Gea's in there, a couple of goalkeepers with De Gea and Courtois. Alexis Sanchez, who's still stayed at Arsenal and still unbelievable. I mean, Ter Stegen and Tielemans. We mentioned Tielemans, that move that he made last season. He's now a first-team player at Barcelona. They have a phenomenal squad, and they're still not winning the league, which is quite impressive. Raheem Sterling, what a career downfall he has had, considering in this FM they rated him so highly. Because remember, this isn't Mr. Teeny just putting in numbers. This is taken away from what would be FM 16 and the database that they have. Goretzka, he's very good in this. He is a bit of a wonder kid. Centre centre midfielder. He's there at Manchester City. Toni Kroos has moved to PSG. Oscar, De Bruyne. These are the types of players, of course, that were around for the next 5 years and are still doing really well. Gareth Bale at Real Madrid, still doing really well. Let's take a look then at the potential. So if I go down here, because I have the in-game editor open, I can also have a look at the potential ability. So if we now narrow this down to players who are a little bit younger, we'll go 20 years of age, and we should start to see some real players come through. William Saliba is already exceptional on this. Still playing at San Etienne. Don't know who Jose Antonio is. So there's going to be some other normal new gens come through, but there are obviously going to be some new gens of real players like Rafael Leao. He is at Sporting. Moises Gomez. No, I thought that would be Moises Caicedo. That's not him. So right now there's a few of them. 30 is up there. Fratesi, Schlotterbeck. Some good players. Anthony Gordon's coming through. He's got 156 current ability, but let's just go off of who has the highest. So Jose Vera, Arsenal struck gold with that goalkeeper. They are set for life. There's Vinny Jr., Flamengo. I was wondering, I thought it's got to be Vinny Jr., Jude Bellingham just coming through Birmingham's academy there. Bukayo Saka at Arsenal. They've got a great season ahead of them, haven't they? A few seasons. Moises Caicedo has moved to Porto, so that's where he can be found. Florian Wirtz is at Cologne. Ansu Fati still at Barcelona. Phil Foden's come through, and he's now at Wolves on loan from Manchester City. Gabriel Martinelli, 18 years of age. Could be really good. So there's a lot of Rodrigo, the other Brazilian, as well as Vinicius Jr. There's a lot of players here that we could be seeing in the next couple of seasons to make it really interesting. The sixth season takes us into the 2020-21 season, where despite winning the Champions League last year, Manchester City has sacked Jardim as their manager. Romelu Lukaku continues to be the most clinical striker in the world as he bags another 36 goals in the Premier League for Arsenal, as they only managed to win the League Cup. Marcelinho stayed on as Arsenal manager, however, but failed to win the Premier League because yet again Ralf Rangnick's Spurs finish as champions. And they've just signed an amazing 22-year-old Victor Osimhen from Wolfsburg for £96 million, and in his first season he bagged 22 goals and got 12 assists. Bayern have brought in the old German manager Jogi Löw, and they've made a great decision to do so because he brought back the Bundesliga title, finishing way above Borussia Dortmund. Barcelona finally made some signings of their own, but still it wasn't good enough as it's another trophyless season for them, watching Real Madrid lift La Liga after they spent £200 million bringing in Goretzka from City, Volland and Robertson too. Chelsea and Bayern fought in the Champions League final, but Bayern Munich got revenge from 2012 and lifted another trophy. But the World Footballer of the Year went to 35-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo. However, the next season is going to be wild though, as City steal Chelsea's manager Diego Simeone. Yes, the 21-22 season had a bite to it, with Simeone leaving Chelsea to join City and turning them into powerhouses. Not only did they beat his former club Atletico in the Europa League final, he then also went on to win the Premier League with them in his first season as boss, where Spurs dropped to 7th place. That meant Ralf Rangnick was sacked and he became the manager of Napoli, but guess who moved to Spurs? None other than Pep Guardiola, who left Barcelona at the end of the season after a very unsuccessful time there. In fact, Pep's last game in charge wasn't even in the league, but it was Barcelona in the Champions League final against Real Madrid, where they lost 4-0. A noticeable signing in the Premier League this season is Jude Bellingham, moving to Liverpool, just £5 million from Birmingham, and he has all the potential to become the best midfielder in the world. For the first time in years, Juventus don't lift the Serie A title as Roma celebrate a historic win. Real Madrid are winning La Liga again, with Valencia in second and Barcelona in fourth, while Bayern Munich win the Bundesliga again. Quick catch up in other leagues though, because the Premier League, of course, we know was won by Manchester City. Hull, Brentford and Sunderland are going down into the Championship though. Coming up, QPR, Derby and Burnley. But the teams that are in there, the likes of West Ham, Crystal Palace, Forest, Middlesbrough, there's some huge clubs. Brighton, Bournemouth, Leeds, all in the Championship, which is, of course, very different to what we've experienced in real life throughout these years. Plymouth Argyle are actually going into the Championship, though, which happened a couple of seasons after this in real life. Swindon and Huddersfield are joining them. Wickham, Fleetwood, AFC Wimbledon and Stevenage going down into Sky Bet League 2. And we've got Leyton Orient, Port Vale, Woking, Carlisle making their way up. Wrexham still knocking around in there in the playoff spots as well, so they're doing well. Notts County and Hartlepool going down into non-league, and they look like this, the non-league. Stockport coming up. Bristol Rovers failed to get promotion. Gateshead managed to pinch that. Doncaster's down there. Morecambe. There's some big clubs still in the Vanarama National League who haven't been able to get out of it ever since this simulation started. And a quick shout out to Cristiano Ronaldo, who at age 36 has won the World Player of the Year again and has decided to retire. So how will Real Madrid cope in 22-23 season without CR7 for the first time? Because Rafa Benitez has also left the club too. He went to Juventus in Italy and he's managed to reclaim the Italian title back from Roma. Their team is stacked though, with the likes of Rafael Leao, Alvaro Morata, Kevin De Bruyne amongst many others, and new gens. They even have Mohamed Salah too, who isn't world class, but he certainly is still elite. And for those Liverpool fans wondering, Virgil van Dijk is currently playing at Norwich. Another nearly 40-goal season for Romelu Lukaku at Arsenal, and this time they don't have Spurs costing them league titles. Marcelo Gallardo is the man in charge, and this time it's a Premier League win for the Gunners. Not only that, but they played Unai Emery's PSG in the Champions League final, and they beat them 2-1-2. After Pep left Barcelona, Thomas Tuchel left Juve to take over, hence the Benitez switch to Turin, but they failed to win the league again as Real Madrid are victorious with Marcelinho, the former Arsenal manager, in charge. There have been so many switches in managers now, I'm starting to lose track of this. When I started doing this simulation, I was like, there's so many good stories with the managers moving around, and then every season it just kept developing, and this became more about the managers rather than the players itself. But I do think it's still really interesting. I do think we still need to take a look at some of the transfers, because Real Madrid are still spending £218 million. They're bringing in players that not necessarily are real life players like Miguel Cruz and still succeeding. £81 million. That is obviously Cristiano Ronaldo's replacement. Balde Keita is another one that could be considered that too. He is one of the wonder kids from this game that we have got. Jose Rodriguez, looks like they're bringing in some good youngsters too. So they are doing classic Real Madrid stuff, and Barcelona are just not coping with them very well at all. It's been a long time since Barcelona won anything, League, Cup or Champions League. They're struggling despite having Yuri Tillemans, despite having Neymar, and still Messi at age 35. Thomas Tuchel's got a bit of a job on his hands because he's not been given a lot of money. Only £91 million this season was spent, and they had to sell £70 million as well. If they were smart, next season they would look to Brazil to find the talents that haven't been snapped up yet for a cheap price. But they might not be the only ones looking. The 23-24 campaign did see Rodrigo get snapped up, but it was for Manchester United in the Premier League as he became a key figure at Old Trafford. Massimo Allegri was in charge for the last 2 seasons, but has failed to bring much silverware to the club, as this season they finished in 5th place and Arsenal claimed the league title again. Guardiola wasn't doing too bad at Spurs, however, as they played AC Milan in the Champions League final and picked up a 2-0 win to lift the trophy. Rafa Benitez has been sacked from Juventus as he failed to meet their expectations, finishing in 4th place as Roma pick up another Scudetto. It's still no better for Thomas Tuchel and Barcelona, as they once again suffer a trophyless season and down in 4th in La Liga. Marcelinho's Real Madrid was still clinching league titles with Paul Pogba running the midfield, and in France, however, the last couple of seasons the league title has been won by Monaco, who have managed to keep hold of academy graduate Kylian Mbappe as he dominates, scoring 27 goals. So I think it's about time we take a look at some of the players again around the world before we go into the 24-25 season, which would of course end last summer. So we've got the likes of Jose Vera, who we mentioned moved to Arsenal. He is now one of the best players, if not the best player in the world. It's a goalkeeper. Paul Pogba's there at Real Madrid, 31 years of age. What a midfielder. Neymar, 192 as well, age 32. How both of their careers went down south, didn't they, compared to what this football manager thought it would be. Courtois there. Declan Rice has shown up. Now, that's quite interesting. He's actually moved to Bayern Munich. He had a stint at Manchester United, 33 million, something that was rumoured to actually happen in real life. Probably around about the same time as well, to be fair. But he burst onto the scene at West Ham, went Man United. Now he's at Bayern Munich. So he's having quite a good career, and obviously, he's still at the very start of it, 25 years of age. Saliba is still at Saint Etienne. Why has nobody picked Saliba up? That's crazy. Isco went to Man City, stayed there. We've got a couple of new gens come through. We've got this man, Shaheen, as well as Marounia, who play in the Premier League at Barcelona and Tottenham there. Monaco's Mbappe, who we mentioned, could go up to 197 potential ability, should he get there. Eden Hazard, age 33, looking quite good still despite that. Raheem Sterling, the same thing. He's at Tottenham. But there's even like Kvaratskhelia, who's at Porto, 177. We've got a couple of new gens as well. Martin Odegaard, who's at Porto as well. They've got a really good team, Porto. Goretzka, Victor Osimhen, of course, that we've seen. I know some people is going to be wondering about Erling Haaland. Well, I actually found a bit of a bug, and I let Mr. Teeny know, and he's fixed it since. So if anybody does have this database, you've got me to thank for the reason that Erling Haaland is absolutely pants on this. For some reason, he was stuck at he's stuck at 87 potential ability, which is obviously completely wrong. So yeah, we solved that little problem, but there's still some big names who haven't moved. We take a look at Jude Bellingham in a sec, but Vinicius Jr. still at Flamengo in Brazil. Crazy. You look how good he is. Look at his price, and he hasn't been snapped up yet. Whether it's just the AI just being terrible at transfers again, but 161 current ability, up to 190 potential. Should anybody take the chance on him? And nobody has. Jude Bellingham, another player that we're always very fond of looking at, seeing where he's gone. Of course, he went to Liverpool. He's been on the loan market, but I don't think he's picked up a loan yet. He hasn't really featured much, which is a shame, because he could be one of the best midfielders in the world. Well, we've got one full season before we're up to date with last season. By the way, Liverpool's manager, he's been there for ages. I haven't really mentioned it. He's been there for nearly 10 seasons. He came from Wolfsburg. I've never heard of him. The 24-25 season then, which would be the 10th season, as Gallardo leaves Arsenal. Tuchel takes over and is sacked by the end of the season. Not only that, but Simeone is back in charge at Chelsea after leaving Manchester City. And what a comeback too, as he lifts the Premier League title with them in his first season back, as United fall to 14th place, very similar to the 15th place finish last season in real life. Tuchel, who left Barcelona, was replaced by Allegri, who was brought in. However, it was still a bad season for Barcelona, finishing in third place as Real Madrid win the league again under Marcelinho. Juventus have not won the Serie A again this time round, as AC Milan are back, claiming the trophy. Bayern Munich won the Bundesliga with Marcelo Gallardo in charge, and in France, Monaco were knocked off the top spot by a returning PSG, as they sell Mbappe. The French international finally moved club for £112 million to none other than Spurs, scoring 32 goals in his first campaign. And Pep Guardiola has built some team here in North London as they defeat Real Madrid in the Champions League final, despite Real Madrid having the World Footballer of the Year for the last 2 seasons. But this point right here takes us all the way up until last season, the end of last season. Which means if we want to go all the way up to modern day, we need an 11th and final season to determine how this season we are currently in right now plays out. And so that's exactly what I've done. I've made myself Watford at the end of this season to see, and Arsenal are your Premier League champions, which could potentially happen in real life with Manchester City sat in second place. Arsenal's manager Allegri. I mean, after the failure they had at Barcelona, that does actually shock me, to be honest. Who was their manager again that's just left? Tuchel? Tuchel was actually left last season. He didn't quite get it. Gallardo, the season before that, who was very good, Gallardo, I must say. He was quite decent. But yeah, I mean, Pep Guardiola and his Spurs team, with the likes of Harry Kane and Kylian Mbappe, Raheem Sterling, who is unbelievable on this game still, by the way, finishing in third place. So he has been there for a long time, 2032. So 5 seasons he had at Spurs, which does surprise me. They won an FA Cup this season. They did not manage to retain the Champions League, unfortunately. Manchester City, Unai Emery was their manager in the end. They only managed to finish in second place. They didn't win anything this season. My Manchester United, mid-table, Adi Vivish. I mean, again, I've never heard of him. Where does he start off? That's quite interesting. So he starts off as like a coach, I believe, at Chelsea, and he has turned himself into a manager. He was at Sevilla for a little bit. Now he's the Manchester United manager. It's kind of realistic, really, isn't it, compared to how they did. They have just won the Europa League, though. I'm giving the man a little bit of stick, but he has just gone on and won the Europa League by the looks of it. So we can't be too mad at him. He's actually gone on and won a trophy for Manchester United, which is more than what some managers can say that they do. They are with Patson Daka and Memphis Depay, though. I mean, Memphis Depay was unbelievable on the game in this like sort of era in this year. Chelsea, who were in and around it, still with Simeone, down in 5th place. They won the Cup and the... so who won the Europa League then? Who actually won the Europa League? We cannot see who won the Europa League this year, which I don't understand why. It says it was won by Bremen, but then that was 2 seasons ago. So does the Europa League just don't exist anymore? We just stopped with the Europa League? I'm not too sure. We'll have to skip around that. Liverpool, still the same manager. Haven't really won anything whatsoever. So let's take a look then at the Serie A. It's been dominated by Juve, and Juve have won it again, 90 points this season. Rafa Benitez going there was weird, but they got Jogi Löw now. He has been around, hasn't he? If you look at his resume, it's mental. Man City, PSG, Bayern, and Juve. He's kind of won trophies wherever he's been, so he has done quite well, but he's won the Serie A and the Italian Cup, so he's won the double there, the domestic double in Italy. Then we've got the French League. Of course, Monaco dropped off. They've gone on and won it again. I'm really pleased with that, actually. So, ultra. And they've got Bernardo Silva. They've got Ivan Cavallero, who's very good. And they got a couple of good youngsters. Look how good he is. Matteo Fusco, who could play DM or striker. But they've gone up. Hold on a minute. They've also won the Champions League. Wow, they've beaten Diego Simeone's Chelsea in the final. This Monaco team has been a shock surprise. They lose Mbappe. They barely spend any money since, and they still go on to win the league and Champions League double. Fair play to them. Unbelievable. But the last thing we really need to have a look in terms of the league, Barcelona have finally come back under a manager I've never heard of, I'll be honest. Rodolfo Arruabarrena. I've nailed that too. Who I think is the Boca Juniors manager to start off with, by the looks of it. He has come in as the manager and has finally brought the league title back to Barcelona. And it's a shame because Messi has just retired, I believe, the season before, or even the season before that. Neymar's still around, though, age 34, still good. They got this striker here who's world-class, and that's probably the reason why they've done it. He's from Turkey, too. Now, they got Antonio, who's been decent, but they've finally won the league title. Quite emphatically, too, by 11 points. Real Madrid finishing in second place under Marcelinho. He's been there for a few seasons now, 4 or 5 seasons. So they kind of steadied the ship there. They did win the Spanish Cup. The likes of Paul Pogba, the likes of Miguel Cruz, who's a new gen in there. Goretzka, Victor Osimhen went there. So Victor Osimhen, funny enough, obviously was at Spurs. Moved for £173 million. Massive money. That's obviously why they spent 112 million on Kylian Mbappe. They were happy to sell Victor Osimhen and get Kylian Mbappe instead. Not a bad little replacement, that is, in terms of how good he turned out to be for them. So, nice, very interesting stuff. Let's have a look then at the World Footballer of the Year. To close this out, it's Paul Pogba again. I mean, talk about your career going downhill. This is what could have been. James Rodriguez, by the way, retired as the World Footballer of the Year, age 35. Paul Pogba has gone on to win it again. He's only 33. His career has took a completely different path to what we know of in real life. But there we have it. I hope you enjoy this. I love going back with a retro database, re-simming it, especially when you got all the new gens coming through and seeing exactly what happens. I mean, Jude Bellingham, we are a little bit too early, I think, for Jude Bellingham to really come into it, but he's starting to play more games, 33 games there, and he is just about creeping in. A couple of more years, I mean, Liverpool could start dominating, or they could start doing very well if they were smart in the transfer window. They spent 288 million. Wow, they've built a good team. They've also got Kvaratskhelia. So they've got some good players coming in. They were about to start winning games, I reckon. They already had Gabby Jesus. They already had Philip Coutinho still. Very good. Oh, how things can change in a retro database when we resim and recreate history. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you do, because tomorrow we have a versus rebuild using this database with Barcelona and Real Madrid. So make sure you check that one out.